everybody, welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Sinead DeFries, and this is The Daily Show, where we bring you the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Joining us is AMC Production Manager, Dennis Seng.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on a brand new episode of AMC Movie Talk. I know we had exciting news yesterday about the whole Marvel Phase 3. You guys had a whole hour show about it, but I got a couple smaller movie recommendations. One, Birdman, amazing film, best movie of the year for me, personally. And then another one is Showrunners. It's a documentary about the art of running a television show. I'm a little biased because I'm friends with the director and the producers, and I worked on it a little bit as well. So yeah, check those out.
Hey. Also, here's AMC's Miss Mary Jetikin.
Hi guys, happy to be here on this lovely Thursday.
I just noticed your Guns N' Roses t-shirt. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And also here's AMC's Christian Harloff.
Sinead, I'm digging that jacket. It reminds me of something of like Gem and the Holograms or something.
Thanks, thank
What's
you.
up, guys?
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. All right. The final trailer for the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 has been released. This is the third film in the franchise based on the best-selling young adult novel series. Directed by Francis Lawrence, the movie stars Jennifer Lawrence, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Elizabeth Banks, Jenna Malone, Donald Sutherland, Julianne Moore, Josh Hutcherson, Liam Hemsworth, and Woody Harrelson. The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 opens in AMC theaters everywhere on November 21st. Dennis, what do you think of this final trailer?
I thought it was good. I actually like the more kind of post-apocalyptic tone to it versus the dystopian tone. I know it's a small distinction, but I like that more. They show the destruction of District 12. It's only a minute long than the usual 2.5-minute trailer. But at this point, this movie is going to make so much money, it doesn't matter. They could have done a 2-minute trailer of Jennifer Lawrence playing Scrabble with Donald Sutherland, and the movie's gonna make a ton.
So you've seen the movie already?
Probably. And yeah, I think it's projected at like 130 million opening weekend just in the US.
Wow.
So it's definitely gonna be, I think, the biggest movie of the year. Mary, what'd you think of the trailer?
I liked it. I feel like the Catching Fire was kind of the setup for the next two films, and I like the fact that I feel like we're gonna see a lot more of the Katniss psyche kind of unpacked and what the games did to her. And they definitely hint at the fact that she's like coming into her own as a leader, and I don't know, I thought it was cool. I like the fact that it was short. I don't think they need to tell us anything more. The movie's coming out in like a month, so what else can they tell us before we see the movie? And you're right, it's gonna make money no matter what. So.
Yeah. Christian?
I liked most of it. I liked the majority of it. But one thing, do you think that this movie's gonna make more than Guardians overall?
I think so.
Really?
Well, I mean, not in this year. It's gonna carry on to next year.
Right.
You mean like total?
Total. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I've read the book, so I know that for what I've seen so far in the tone of it, it looks exactly what I pictured as I was reading it. And like you guys said, I like the way that that's all set up and the difference. One thing I didn't like, that there's a little bit of a spoiler in it, which I won't. I don't know if somebody knows or if you guys know. There's a spoiler that they put in the trailer that pissed me off. And I was like, you don't need to put that in there. Everything else, I'm going to see this. Everyone else is going to see this. By putting this particular moment in the trailer, you gave away everything else that you've been setting up so far in your posters and in your other trailers. And it's like, don't show that. But I loved the length of it. I love the length that it was so short. That's it. No more. Because I even showed it to Ellis beforehand. He's just like, another trailer? That's it. No more. No more.
Okay, I don't know if we're on the same page with the spoilers because I don't want to say it, but yeah, I haven't read the book, but I still saw a spoiler in the trailer, and I was like, really? Why'd they put that? Because they had built it up through the other.
I think we're on the same page of what it was. It just made no sense to why they did that, because now you've been teasing this so far in all the marketing, and it's like, leave it. And
all right. What's next?
During a recent Wall Street Journal conference, James Cameron talked about shooting the Avatar sequels and said this about the process. Interestingly, the term filming is so obsolete in almost every regard because we do some image capture where there's actual photography, but it's done entirely on digital cameras. And that only represents a small part, maybe 20 to 25% of the entire film. The rest is completely synthetically generated. Christian, what do you make of this statement?
if this was anyone else other than James Cameron, I would be kind of mad, and I'd say, what are you doing? Didn't you see the prequels in Star Wars? Just focus on the story. Focus on making a good movie. Don't worry about all the technological jargon. But this guy's revolutionary, man. He every time, even regardless of what you think of Avatar, if you saw it in the theater, you cannot, the first one, you cannot say that you didn't go into that first movie and experience something like you've never experienced before in a theater. I don't care what you thought about if it was Fern Gully or whatever. I'm talking about the actual visual experience of it. So him saying this, it makes me curious to see what he's going to do. He's a magician when it comes to film. He really is. There's new things that he does. So this is encouraging in a technical standpoint, but I always, in the story standpoint, say, focus more on the story and the characters, especially that people didn't really love the first story so much.
Mir?
Yeah, I kind of take this as he's sort of referring more to the linguistic habits that we have of, it's like when I say, I taped my favorite show last night, even though there was no tape involved. I recorded it on my DVR. I think what he's saying is that the term filming is completely out of date for what he's doing specifically with this particular project. Because, like he said, what he's doing is not filming. He's, creating something synthetically with a computer and shooting digitally. And I think he's kind of pointing out the fact that maybe the term "I filmed a movie" is not always applicable anymore. So I agree with you. I think he can pretty much say anything, and I'll still go see his movies.
But he's doing new things with
Totally.
we're going to find new stuff. That's what I meant in regards to the digital aspect of it. It's just, it's more about that. Watch what I'm going to do now. You're going to see some new tricks. And we're not using film anymore, but these new tricks and this. And what's he not doing? He may not even do 48 frames. He's going to do
60.
Oh my God.
60 frames.
That's what I mean. So it's like all these.
I'm not huge on that.
Me
Right.
neither.
So that's when he's talking about this type
nervous.
of stuff. And even whether it be, I'm not necessarily filming a movie anymore.
Yeah.
It's still, it's more about the technical and all that stuff as far as just, I'm going to tell a great story with all these characters. And that's not coming out of anyone's mouth.
That's also not going to make him $100 scabillion
You're right.
at the
You're
box
right.
office.
Well, yeah, for me, it's
Unfortunately.
I'm more like I took away from it more what you did, which it was semantics.
Yeah.
It's just like film and movie are now interchangeable. Like, I mean, most movies nowadays are shot digitally. Gone Girl is shot completely digitally. Yet people still call it a David Fincher film,
Right, right.
Because film to a lot of people carries more gravitas. It's supposed to be, it's much more important.
It's a film.
Yeah, it's the film, not the movie.
Right. So you think they're movie makers more now than filmmakers?
Well, it's just interchangeable. It's just like what you were saying with taping a show.
I think it's just a matter of time, and eventually, I mean, we still use film. It's not completely gone. So I feel like people, we're in a transitional period semantically, like you were saying. So it's going to be interesting to see if he's right. Maybe one day we'll be like, I digitized a movie.
All right. Actually, we're buy or sell. We're at the buy or sell segment. Sinead, what do we got?
Magnolia Pictures have released a new trailer for Serena, a film starring Oscar-winning actress Jennifer Lawrence and Oscar-nominated actor Bradley Cooper. The movie is based on the novel of the same name by Ron Rash and is centered around the relationship of a married couple, played by Lawrence and Cooper, that oversee a timber empire in North Carolina in the 1920s. The movie is scheduled to debut in theaters on March 27th, 2015. Mary, buy or sell this trailer?
Ugh, despite the wonderful fashion sense of Serena Shaw, I'm gonna have to sell this. There's a lot to see on paper about this film that might be nice. Like Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence, we know have great chemistry. I didn't feel it in this trailer as much. I didn't feel that like crackling, visceral thing that they have together. And I don't know. I feel like it's a bit stiff. I feel like the story, while it's very interesting to be set in the 1920s in the timber industry, like that's all really interesting to me. But the sort of period drama romance thing, it just felt really staid and stiff in the trailer. So I have to sell it, even though I kind of want to buy it. I'm selling it for now. We'll see.
Is it just me, or does it give off a little Gone Girl vibe set in the 1920s there?
Like she goes crazy.
Yeah. But I'm tentatively going to sell it as well. It's not that interesting of a trailer, other than the fact that Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence are in it. And it was shot, I think, in 2012?
Yeah, it was shot in between the two David O. Russell films they did together, and then it couldn't find like a U.S. distributor, and it couldn't get put placed in the festivals. Like, it had a lot of problems, so I don't know.
And the director is an Oscar-winning director, Susanna Bier. She's
Dutch, I think.
Yeah, she won for a foreign language film. But yeah, I don't know. The rumors are coming out, either one, it's like a disaster.
Yeah.
And no one wants to touch it, or two, that she's a perfectionist and she's taking so long to get it done.
Yeah.
But I think a good sign is there haven't been any reshoots or re-edits. It's just been taking so long. Christian, what about you?
I'm gonna buy it only because it was on the clearance rack. Everything you guys are saying, I kind of agree with that. It could turn out to be very boring.
Yeah.
But it could turn out to be Legends of the Fall.
Yeah.
Because if you saw a Legends of the Fall trailer, you're just looking going, it could be kind of really boring, and Brad Pitt in this point, and Anthony Hopkins has a weird wig on. But that movie's great, and the way that it was all set up, and I got that kind of vibe from this more than I did. I say Gone Girl. I just felt like there was more. There was something about it, or maybe it's a hopeless romantic in me. If I saw them when they were laying on the bed, the hospital bed, and they had the blood transfusion there, and maybe it's a little cheesy and corny, but I said, all right, these guys have proven that they have chemistry beforehand, kind of what you said too. There could be something very special, or it could be like drinking a bottle of NyQuil.
Well, you're right. It's beautiful looking. I mean, the world is depicted beautifully. The costumes are amazing, and I think that alone could be worth the price of admission.
Yeah.
So.
All right, what's next?
We'll see.
There are 2 new covers of Entertainment Weekly featuring the first official look at Terminator Genisys. One cover features Emilia Clarke, who plays Sarah Connor, and Jai Courtney, who plays Kyle Reese. The other showcases Jason Clarke, who plays John Connor, and Matt Smith, who plays a new character to the franchise. Dennis, buy or sell these covers?
I love the Terminator franchise. I'm really looking forward to the movie with Alan Taylor directing and all the stars in it. I'm gonna sell these covers. I mean, one, why they're so bright? You know, why is Terminator so bright? It's like, it kind of looks like almost like an upcoming sci-fi TV show. You even have Jai Courtney over there kind of squinting because it's so bright
They're
in
all
there.
Well, yeah, they're all squinty.
Yeah, and I just, I don't know. I just don't get that Terminator feel from it. I'm still looking forward to the movie. Christian?
I'm going to sell this as probably the hardest I've ever sold anything on this show. It looks horrible. It looks like something at Universal Studios, like when you stop by, like, hey, Dad, can I get a picture with the Terminator? And it looks like in the back there, Jai Courtney's making tough face.
Yeah.
And what I've heard so far about this movie, I was looking forward to it. What I've heard, what they're doing with it, and the twist, like, I kind of know more than I want to know about the movie. I hate so far what I've heard about it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that they deliver it and they make it work. But everything I'm hearing so far and now seeing, stonks.
Miri?
Doinks.
That's
Is
a
that
big
in
one.
the dictionary?
It's in mine.
I sell this as well. I first of all, the minute they announced that Genesis was spelled with a Y, I was out. I was like, I'm sorry, I don't like when people misspell words. It bothers me. It's a pet peeve. But I agree with you. Just to talk about the covers and not the project in general, I agree. It's totally blown out. It looks cheap. It doesn't look like that big, dark, evocative world that we know Terminator to be. And you're right. Like Jai Courtney is just like looking into the camera. And the only thing I like about these cameras is Emilia Clarke's leather jacket.
I bet you she's going to wind up being a standout in it for sure. It's just when you look at it, it just doesn't. It looks like, hey, we're making a movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it's like we're continuing one of the coolest stories that's been in film history. We're going to really bring this thing back to prominence. It looks like, hey, we get to play with the Terminator.
There's like a lack of reverence in these.
Doesn't look cool
in
at
these
all.
covers. I feel. For people that are huge fans of this franchise, anyway.
Yeah, if it didn't say Terminator on them, would you know it was a, other than the little
Terminator?
But even that, it's almost like these guys dressing up. They're dressing up for Halloween or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
It just looks like Jason Clarke looks like he's playing the same character there than he was in Olympus Has Fallen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys, before we get into mailbag, I want to remind you that we're going to take some live viewer questions on Twitter. You can tweet us at AMC Movie News, and we'll get to those at the end of the show. So let's get with the first mailbag, Sinead.
Usman Mohammed writes, hi AMC crew, there have been some great actors who have had chemistry with each other in films. For example, Al Pacino and De Niro in Heat. My question is, which 2 actors or actresses would you like to see play opposite each other that haven't worked with each other before? My choice would be Christoph Waltz and Jeremy Irons.
I would love to see 2 of my favorite actors, Edward Norton and Sam Rockwell, together in a movie.
I like that.
I think they both kind of envelop their characters so much. It'd be either like they're doing a thriller where each of them are enemies, or they do a comedy where they're buddies that kind of annoy each other. What about you, Christian?
Well, first of all, Jason Clarke was in White House Down, not Olympus Has Fallen. I would probably take Fassbender and Tom Hardy. I'd like to see them do something together for sure. And I'd like to see New Age Liam Neeson and New Age Denzel Washington do an action movie together. And maybe one plays a villain, one plays a good guy, an anti-hero. That could be cool.
Miri?
I would like to see Jessica Chastain and Kate Winslet in a movie together because they're 2 of my favorite actresses of our generation. I think that they both represent kind of similar qualities to me as actors, actresses, and I just want to see them in a movie together. I want to see Meryl Streep with anybody in a movie together that she hasn't been with yet. I mean, this is such a good question. I was thinking about this, like how, who's not been together? I was thinking for some reason, I don't know why, I'd like to see Fassbender and John Malkovich in a movie together. I don't know why. There's no reason
fun.
for it, other than that they just go there.
At first, I was going to say Matt Damon and Edward Norton, because Matt Damon is also one of my favorite actors. But they were in a movie together,
Yeah,
Rounders.
That's right. When Matt Damon was
right.
really blonde.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. All right, what's next?
Finn writes, Dear AMC, I've just discovered the show. It's grand. My question is, with the increasing popularity and money that large blockbuster films like Guardians of the Galaxy Gamer does it affect studios' confidence in deciding to make niche films, especially ones that may require larger budgets, thereby missing out on new young directors and having to rely on the few films with established directors like Wes Anderson that are only released every few years? Any thoughts?
I don't think this is an issue because studios aren't very keen on providing big budgets for niche films. They just aren't. And it doesn't matter if you're a new director or up-and-coming director or even a seasoned director. I always talk about this movie, Lincoln. Steven Spielberg, one of the, most well-known filmmakers in cinema history. And then you got Daniel Day-Lewis, one of the most award-winning actors, about a president that's beloved and well-known. And they barely got that movie made. Spielberg talks about how close it ended up being like an HBO TV movie instead of a theatrical release. And so if someone of his caliber with that cast and that name and all that stuff barely can get the budget together to make it, I just don't see this being like an issue of a young filmmaker versus a veteran. I think more the path of Duncan Jones is more the likely path, where you start off with a small movie like Moon, which he killed it, and he did Source Code, which is a little bigger budget, and then they finally gave him Warcraft, which is a huge movie. So I think that's kind of more the path to take if you're an up-and-coming filmmaker, because you don't need it. Yeah, you don't need it. You don't need a big budget to show that you're talented.
Look at Gareth Edwards. I mean, he did Monsters on like a shoestring, and now he's just did Godzilla, and didn't he do Godzilla?
Yeah, he did
Yeah.
Godzilla,
Yeah.
and that was his
I was like, wait a
next
minute.
movie after Monks.
Well,
Yeah,
all the
so-
really good directors do that too. I mean, even Tarantino started when he started with Reservoir Dogs and all those movies with the smaller budgets and building it back up. And look at I mention Matthew Vaughn on the show all the time too with Layer Cake and all those movies. They're smaller budgets and you build yourself up. And a guy that I thought got thrown into it too quick was Gavin Hood. Gavin Hood did a movie called Satsi, which is beautiful, and it's a movie that's if you haven't seen, it's a foreign film. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. But it's small. I mean, it's what got him on the map. But then they just threw him into the big budget movies, and then I think the studio execs kind of bullied him a little bit. That's the problem sometimes. Is that when a smaller director, like look at what Nolan did. Nolan was able to build himself up through Memento and these other movies, and then when he got himself into position of power to get Batman, then when that movie hit, then he put himself in the position of power.
Yeah.
When a director is able to do that, that's when they have the power. When they just jump from a good movie to a small movie to the big budget movie, studios can still kind of punch them around a little bit.
Because they have no cachet.
Correct.
I keep thinking
Yeah.
of Doug Liman also, who started small. Swingers was like one of his first movies,
Right.
and he kind of slowly built, into something more. And I think it's, it's also a question of studios they have investors and they have people that they have to answer to, and so they're taking fewer and fewer risks. And it's a great question because it also opens up the dialogue of what about the type of movie? Like Guardians of the Galaxy is, it's a franchisable movie. It's part of a big franchise already. It's superheroes. And I think, the dramas that used to be mainstays at the box office aren't anymore. Now they're saved for a certain time of year and only certain directors can do them. And otherwise it's indies. And then if you look at the indie community and the indie film circuit, most people start doing a short. Like they'll do a short and they'll enter it into a festival. And then like Lynn Shelton, for example, I think she started with a short and then she did a feature. Lake Bell started with a short, then she did a feature, and she already had entry into the industry being an actress and a successful one. So it's kind of interesting. There's so many different paths now. There's so many different ways to get to notoriety or success, really, not notoriety. So I don't know. It's a good question. You could have a whole show talking about just this topic. So.
Even the dramas, though, it's not like they're throwing big money at those dramas.
Well, that's what
you
it
know?
is because look at something like we talked about Marvel all day yesterday, obviously, and another reason Marvel's able to become this machine is because for each movie that they do, they spend the right amount of money marketing each one too,
Yeah.
and make events like yesterday and put the amount of marketing. Even DC has enough money in all their properties to be able to put the money to market the Batman v Superman, all these movies. With a movie like a drama or something like that, you have one campaign for this particular movie. It's not a franchise, so there's no. money for that particular genre that's going to be put into it. There's a set amount that they're going to promote it, and you don't have this kind of mega money that these franchises have built.
And there's a very limited time frame in which they can make money, whereas with a franchise, they're also banking on the success of the films previously because they already have a reputation.
Right.
So people are going to go see Guardians of the Galaxy 2 because they loved 1 and came out in droves to see it.
And they saw 1 because they trusted so much in the Marvel brand already.
Exactly.
And Marvel, to their credit, they take calculated risks. I mean, when John Favreau did Iron Man, he hadn't done a big movie like that. I think his movie before that was Elf.
Yeah. Well, even Iron Man himself, even Downey.
Yeah.
Downey was a risk in general.
Yeah, because he wasn't. I mean, they thought he was a bit old, and he
older. He had his problems in the past. He wasn't really. He's still. I mean, you look at even when he's not doing Iron Man movies, he's not a huge bankable star. So that was a big risk. You're right. They take huge risks.
Yeah, James Gunn, Guardians of the Galaxy. Before that, what did he do? Super, I think.
Slither.
He did Slither and Super.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not exactly, and Joss Whedon. He did have one theatrical movie,
and he
Serenity.
was beloved. So they listen. They not only just listen to fans, because that can be dangerous. That's all you do. But they listen to fans. They listen to people who, when the directors and actors come in and hear their pitches about the material itself, not just, oh, here's crunch some numbers. Audiences seem to like this guy. Put him in there. Yeah. They don't do that. They really do their
but
there's other franchises that are doing that as well too, and that's why we're talking about this.
All right, what's next?
Derek writes, the end of 2013 saw Gravity. The end of 2014, we're going to see Interstellar. What makes space the go-to location for Oscar bait?
I don't know if it's necessarily the go-to. Miriam, what your take on
I just had this conversation with somebody, and there is definitely, I think there's always been an interest in outer space in films. I mean, obviously I could list examples, but I could be here all day listing examples. I think there's just a universal human curiosity about what's out there, particularly as conditions on our planet do get worse. We are hearing more news about climate change and issues with the environment, issues with food scarcity, issues with communicable diseases. I mean, like, there's so many, news is everywhere, it's viral, there's so many ways to get information, so we're more aware of bad news than ever before. And there's a lot of bad things happening, so I think it's totally natural. I think since the dawn of man, we've been looking at the stars for information, and it's also really cinematic. Outer space lends itself well to film. And Interstellar, I mean, I've seen it, and I'm not gonna say too much about it other than that visually it is mind-blowing to see space travel, and especially as Christopher Nolan imagines it, and to see great directors and great filmmakers imagine space. Cuarón did an amazing job with Gravity and being so close to Earth and yet so far away, and he created such a beautiful environment and world, and I just think it lends itself well. I think it's cinematic, I think it's operatic, I think it's beautiful. It's, we are all made of stardust, and yet it's such a difficult environment to penetrate with. We're not designed to be off of our planet, really, if you think about it. So it makes for great stakes in film.
Christian?
I think it's also coincidental, because I don't think Cuarón in December, it was supposed to always come out in December.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff that you talk about. Downey was originally the first person to be in that. It wasn't supposed to be Clooney. And it's like, there's a lot of things that just happened, and it put it into motion that it was released in December. Now the same thing, well, the difference is with Nolan. Nolan knows and plans out his movies in advance. He knew he wanted to do a movie about dreams, and he did it. And then he had the Batman franchise kind of lined up when he had to do that, and he always had an idea for Interstellar. So I think it's coincidental. I really do. Do I think that it also, is there something that we're fascinated as humans, that we want to learn more about space, and that's why it happens to land in the Oscar season, because people are so fascinated by it, and if it's painted by directors like Cuarón and Nolan in such a fascinating light that we visually just gravitate towards it, I guess pun intended. So it's, I think that's really what is more coincidental than anything else, but I think that our fascination as human beings is why it may be even the Oscar voter, the Academy voters, because they're so fascinated by it.
Well, I think we're going to see a growth in sci-fi films, and it's kind of similar to the comic book and superhero genre, where now we've come to a place where visual effects and technology-wise, you can create the visuals that people see on screen. It took a long time for comic books films. I mean, sci-fi films have been always a little more respected by the Academy, but now we're going to get into that. And yeah, we've actually seen at least, not a lot, but at least several sci-fi films be nominated for Oscars. I don't think any of them have won, but we had let's see, Avatar, District 9, Gravity, A Clockwork Orange, Star Wars, E.T., Inception. None of them have won, but at least they've been nominated. We haven't had that with the comic book genre yet. And so if you're a director, maybe you're like, I can do a genre film, but and still have a chance at an Oscar. So I think that's part of the reason.
One more sci-fi film next December. Just saying.
The Martian?
No, it's Star Wars, man.
Oh.
And also Jupiter Ascending's coming out next year.
I think in January, February.
I mean, there's always. I think sci-fi is a staple genre.
And it's coming back now more too.
Yeah.
Even Guardians itself. Like Guardians was the first. We knew Star Wars was coming back, but Guardians was that one that said, "Hey, the space opera's back." And now you get into the more serious with The Martian and with Interstellar. But yeah, the sci-fi. I'm glad. I love
Bring
sci-fi.
back westerns. Just saying.
It's hard.
I know they don't make money.
Yeah.
Sucks.
All right, guys. So that's the end of Mailbag. Now we're taking your live Twitter questions. You can tweet us at AMC Movie News. Sinead, what do we got?
At Jonah_Bamhart asks, could we see a Darth Vader spin-off film? Finally seeing Vader be the greatest Jedi assassin we were always told he was.
Christian?
Is it possible? Maybe in a long time from now. I think that they're going to focus, because the prequels were his story as much as if you hated him or liked him ish. They were his story. You're going to see him. You're going to see he's going to pop up in Rebels. He's going to pop up in some of the novels that are coming out as well. He already did pop up in the first Rebels. They added a scene of him, and he's going to pop up in the video games and the comics and stuff of that. And then if there's a spin-off movie like that takes place in between episodes 3 and 4, I think he'll pop up there as well. But a full spin-off movie, I don't think it's time for that now, but possible in the long run.
I just keep picturing Darth Vader like popping up into frame.
Right.
Because he's gonna pop up here. And I don't know. I would love to see it because I've always found him to be one of the most fascinating villains in all of cinema. And you're right. You know, the first 3 in the episodes, but the newer trilogy, the prequels were not satisfying for me. So I would love to see the story reimagined by a different director and under a different set of circumstances. But I think you're probably right. I think they have it's almost like Marvel or Warner Brothers with DC, where they have their slate, they're figuring it out. And I don't know if there's a lot of space for Vader in that slate.
Sorry, but they're also doing what they're doing differently. What Marvel has done with their television universe and their film universe, with this combined universe, was very different. What Star Wars is doing in total long-form storytelling is fascinating. They're doing everything that comes out now with novels, video games, comic books. It all is canon and part of storyline. So whatever you see of Vader in anything, it all is part of his storyline. And there's a book coming out, a novel, Lords of the Sith, which comes out next, I think like March or so, and it's all about the Emperor and Darth Vader getting off this planet together. It's like they have to battle their way out, and that to me is fascinating. I'll be reading that. So there's a lot of cool stuff with Vader coming out.
Yeah, I don't see a spin-off coming just because of the nature of the character. Because if you do a spin-off movie, then you need to create some sort of hero to be the antagonist for Vader, and I don't know how that exactly is going to work. All right, what's next?
Alexander Burton asks, who are some actors and actresses that you think should have a bigger presence in Hollywood? For me, it's Anna Kendrick and Ben Foster.
Miri?
I like Anna Kendrick. I think that's a nice call. Oh, man, this is a tough question. Come back to me. Christian, you go first. What do you think about it?
I always, anytime I hear this, I always say Rachel McAdams, because she was on this like meteoric rise, and then she just kind of disappeared. She pops up, pops up again. You see her and stuff, but she didn't ever had that. I remember people were saying that she's gonna be like the next Julia Roberts, and she never had that effect. And I think she's very talented.
I have it.
Who you got?
Kyle Chandler.
Oh,
I love
he's great.
him. I love him, and I think he should be in more stuff.
Yeah, and
Coach Taylor.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff, but you mean as far as the superstar?
Wolf of Wall Street, he's on the side.
Yeah, he always plays wonderful supporting. He's a really true character actor.
Whiplash too.
But I actually,
God.
I think he would be great.
Spectacular now. Sorry.
I think he would be great. I just want to see more of him. I know he's old now, but I love Harry Dean Stanton, and I want to see him more. There are so many actors that are wonderful, which just goes to show you like what a lottery it is, and how even when you're at the top, in 5 years you could be nobody again. So it's such a tricky, like the Hollywood game is so fierce.
It is.
Emily Blunt is one as well.
Yeah,
she's out there, and people are aware of her. But she hasn't had that one role yet that has just
made her a superstar.
She was great in Edge of Tomorrow. She was great in Looper, but she hasn't. She could be leading her own movies, and she's got that kind of star power.
And she's beautiful, which doesn't hurt.
I mean, I said this name before, but Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
He's a person that's just super talented, charismatic, and I think he could, carry a film. It's just more of getting the right role for him. And there's a bunch of others.
I would have said Michael Keaton, but Birdman has wow, he's back. Our generation. I mean, I know a lot of people look at me and think, Michael Keaton, you're crazy. But when they see Birdman, they're going to change their mind.
Everyone's
He's
talking about him
amazing.
now, yeah, for sure.
Oscar nom for sure.
Yeah.
All right, one more.
At 7RUC0 asks, any new update about Josh Trank's Chronicle 2? I want to see the origin and not another take on the same things.
I haven't heard anything. Have you guys?
No, we actually had a question similar to this, I think, a couple of months ago, and there's been no news that I've read other than there's been a debate about whether it's going to be a continuation of the first film or a reboot. I don't know.
And the last I heard is Max Landis isn't even involved in it.
Yeah.
No, thank you. And Trank's going to be too busy, man. He's got
With Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four, the Star Wars spinoff, and then he's gonna. And I know that Godzilla comes out in like 75 years from now, Godzilla 2.
but he's gonna
still
be busy
working
doing
on it.
prep,
all that
for
stuff.
sure.
So I don't think I'd love to see it, and I'd like Max Landis to come back, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
And if they do, I would rather see it as a continuation than a reboot or an alternate storyline, like whatever turned those kids maybe is found somewhere else.
Right. But they ended it with, it's basically the ending of Chronicle is opening to a sequel.
Yeah.
So it would be a shame to miss that opportunity. And I would love to see Dane DeHaan back because I think he was so great.
He's another actor, like in the previous question, I would love to see more.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's new, so it's understandable why he's not in more films. All right, guys, that's it for today's show. I want to thank the people at the table with me. First of all, Miri Jedikin, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Miri the Jedi.
And I'd like to thank Christian. Where can people find you?
Well, speaking of Jedis, Jedi Council is going to be coming back. So why don't you guys go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Christian Harloff. Any questions you want to talk about and things that you hear about Star Wars, let me know.
And I'd like to thank our lovely host, Sinead. Where can people find you online?
I am on Instagram and Twitter at Sinead DeFries and at thatsosinead.com.
And you can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero or on Instagram, dennis.tzng. And don't forget to subscribe to the AMC Theaters YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/AMC Theaters. And have a good rest of the week and make sure to check out some movies. Thanks.
Hey everyone, if you liked this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC Movie Talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.